Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and it's time for a $26,000 brake job. Let's take a look. Before we dive into this beautiful Aston Martin, I want to thank Adam from Washington State for coming all that way to relieve me of the Carver Centegal 27-foot. It's gone, guys. It's off the property and it's gone. He has a similar boat up in Washington. He needs engines, and that was the perfect situation for him. He could take the engines, he could take the parts, all kinds of things. So the Carver is good riddance. It's gone, guys. So now we're down to two boats, the Bayliner and the Trojan. Now back to this beautiful, absolutely beautiful 2011 Aston Martin Vantage V12 Carbon Black Edition. No, it's not actually here for a brake job. It's actually here for something very simple, and we'll talk about it here in a minute. But I'm going to show you guys here in a minute the cost of parts on this car is unreal. It's as much or more than a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. And really this car is on par with one of those cars. It just doesn't have the purpose of one of those cars. Let's take a look at this beautiful car. Let's look under the hood. Look around it. We'll let Mrs. Wizard do her interior inspection, and then we're going to talk numbers. Let's get started. So there are cars where the door opens out like a normal Honda Civic or a Chevy Trailblazer, whatever. Then there are doors like Hoovy's Murcielago that's over there that opens straight up. This one is in between. It opens at an angle, kind of like a butterfly. Up in the air, up. There is the beautiful Aston Martin 6-liter V12, which is basically two Ford Duratec V6s welded together in the middle. It's two blocks. Obviously they didn't weld it together, but it's basically two Ford Duratec V6s, which is great because when it's time to do a water pump, you can get one for a Ford, and it's identical part numbers. If you would have gotten the V8 version of this Vantage, it would have been 420 horsepower and 346 pound-feet of torque. This happens to be the Vantage V12. Not only that, it is the Carbon Black Edition. This has 510 horsepower, 420 pound-feet of torque, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds flat, quarter mile in 12.2. This thing means business. It is very fast, and there are no turbos and no supercharger, yet it moves out with authority. The engine is a work of art to me. I love how they did the intakes and how they're white. The valve covers are gray. There's lots of aluminum colored braces. Really tastefully done. I like the way they did it. I would show you all these things removed, but obviously they're bolted down. There's no reason to take all that stuff up because there's nothing wrong with the engine. There are lots of things on this car, as you see here, the carbon fiber. There's lots of carbon fiber things added to this car, being that it's the Carbon Black Edition. These are not fake Honda Civic fanboy cheap stuff that you buy at AutoZone. These are real, authentic louvers made out of solid 100% carbon fiber. This isn't cheap stuff, guys, and it reflects the price when you buy one of these new. It's very expensive. To me, this is one of the most beautiful cars that have been in the shop. Gloss black wheels. Here's a carbon fiber insert here. Solid carbon fiber. It's not the fake stuff that the Civic guys buy. No damage along the side. I love the shape and the style of this car. It is so nice. Here we can see it says V12 Vantage. It doesn't really signify that it is the Carbon Black Edition. It's just something that you can tell by looking at it. Again, more real carbon fiber along the back there. And along this side, more beautiful curves, more beautiful gloss black. The car is stunning. I love it. Would you have one of these, Mrs. Wizard?
Design-wise, yes. That brake job scares me.
Yeah, that is very expensive. The front end definitely looks like an Aston Martin. If you saw this in your rearview mirror, you would say, that is something special. That is not a Kia Rondo. It's not a BMW Z3 or a Z4. There's something different about that car. And usually you would wait till it comes up beside you and leaves you in the dust and you hear the beautiful exhaust noise that we'll hear here in a minute. Let's let Mrs. Wizard check out the interior, then we'll start talking numbers.
So as always, ladies and gents, we start here at the dash, and you can see that this has 14,000 miles, 719. This is not much, and you will see everything is black. Now, it doesn't mean everything is the same black. If you look, we have lots of Alcantara, we have lots of leather in this lovely, lovely car. So, steering wheel, Alcantara. We've got it on the side posts and on the lovely roof as well. As we move down, you will see the dash is leather and with piano black. The leather does have white stitching on it, which does add a bit of a contrast to everything being such a dark, dark shade. If we look at the door panels, you do see some carbon fiber on the handles, and we'll see some more in just a bit as well. If we move to the center console, this is where we will drop the key in. Now that's one of the keys you definitely do not want to lose. Definitely has to get programmed from the dealer. Again, lots of piano black. This is a 6-speed manual. Only way to have this kind of a car. And again, you'll see more leather stitching as well. Do have controls here on the side, and we have some controls down by the base of the seat as well. I've grabbed the owner's manual, and you'll notice it's fun. It's really long and skinny, so I guess it does fit nicely in the small, ever so small glove compartment over there. But it is a really interesting design to have it such long and skinny. It makes it so much different than every other normal one we've seen. And again, leather wrap on it. And again, just normal procedures and, warnings in the book, but it definitely is a little different than what we normally would find. So let's get rid of this book and let's go talk some numbers.
Now the real reason it is here is because the customer thought there were some issues with the battery. He went ahead and replaced the battery himself and inadvertently triggered a bunch of issues with all the modules in the vehicle. This is a common thing with the Aston Martins. They're very particular about changing out the battery. There is a procedure to do it. If you just unhook the battery and throw one in, it can cause a lot of issues, and it did cause a lot of issues. I don't fault the customer because most cars could care less when you change out the battery. This one really gives a damn when you change out the battery. After he changed out his battery, his power windows quit working, his power seats quit working, his radio started acting up. There was a lot of features on this car that just shut down. He was like, oh my God, I just broke my car. I don't know what in the hell just happened. I'm taking this thing to the car wizard. Luckily, I've been through this procedure before. I've seen this on the Aston Martins. All you have to do is we got the scan tool hooked up and went one by one, module by module, which one is communicating, which one is not, and verified. And then you have to go through the fuse box and pull the fuse and reinsert it. And we got that module back online, we recalibrate it, move on to the next module, the next module, the next module. It's quite a laborious process. It's not hard to do. But you really need a scan tool to verify what you've done and recalibrate everything. And after we were done, the windows work, the radio works properly, and also the seats and the heat, everything came back to life. Now this being the black carbon edition, of which 230 were made worldwide. Only 58 in the US. There's not like there's 7,000 of these things cruising around the USA. There's only 58. There's one sitting here at Omega Auto Clinic. It's really cool. Really enjoy working on these very, very special cars. Now, back to those crazy numbers that we quoted at the beginning of the video. Out of curiosity, while this car was in the shop, after we had finished taking care of the battery issue, I thought, what are some of the prices of this particular car with the carbon black with carbon ceramic brakes? What could this customer look to pay if there were issues with that? Even I was astounded. I'm used to seeing Lambo tax, Ferrari tax. It's like, okay, it's a Ferrari. Okay, it's expensive. But I was reasonably shocked, even with this Aston Martin, when I started looking at prices. I'm not going to say where I looked up these prices because I don't need any issues with the suppliers. Here is for one rotor, not all four. That's one carbon ceramic brake rotor, $5,500. I'm going to reiterate that to you guys again. That's 1, not 4. Take that times 4. Now, here's our brake pads. Just the front. That is not the rear. Just the front. $1,300 almost when you get shipping involved. The rear brake pads are also similarly priced. And then you add some labor to change them all out. If you had to replace all 4 rotors, all the pads, and do a full brake service on this vehicle, it would be $26,000. You can go buy a base model Honda Civic 2021, brand new on the showroom for that much money to just do a brake job on this car. That's insane, guys. But it's not too insane because what those brakes can do is amazing. 200 down to 0 over and over. They get glowing red hot and they never lose performance. They are amazing brakes. These are the kind of cars in a mechanic shop, the average Joe on the corner will not work on these, because if you accidentally crack one of those while you're working on something, the shop just, in literally 5 seconds, you just cost the shop $5,500. Just like that. So you really have to be careful working on these cars. You don't go fumbling around with impact wrenches and banging around on stuff like they do in truck shops. You can't treat these cars that way. One more thing. I looked up the clutch on this car. If my shop were to do this, it would be in the range of $6,000 to $8,000 to do a clutch on this car. I'll show you. A little over $3,600 for a clutch kit. Now keep in mind there will be shop markup on the price that you just saw. And labor. $6,000 to $8,000 to do the clutch on this car. Not cheap at all. I don't know that there's anything cheap about this car. Nothing.
Well, wait. You just said you could put a Ford water pump on it. Would that be
Oh,
cheap?
yes, you could. I've done that on a couple of V12s already. I think it's actually a 4.6 liter Ford or maybe the 5.4 Ford. It's the identical water pump. The last job that I did that on, the customer didn't believe me. So I took his original water pump that came from the Aston Martin factory and matched it up to a Motorcraft water pump. Identical part numbers, identical everything. After he saw it, he was like, well, then obviously it's a no-brainer. We're just going to put the cheap Motorcraft water pump in because there's no reason to spend 3 times, 5 times as much for the Aston Martin one. So I was able to save some money that way. I have to apologize, guys. It is extremely hot today in Kansas. It's like 110 degrees heat index. It's crazy. So, let's get this car on the lift. We'll look underneath of it and check out how beautiful it is underneath. It's beautiful everywhere else. But on this channel, you don't get to just walk around the car. You get to look under it. Let's take a look. So as always, one of these exotic cars, lots of shields and lots of aerodynamics. And again, there's nothing other wrong with the car, so there's no reason to tear it all apart. Here's our expensive brakes. You can see the rotor there. That is not metal, guys. It's carbon ceramic. Nothing loose there. Shock is nice and dry. Sway bar link is good. Our engine's nice and dry. Look at that, guys. Ford Motor Company. Fomoco. Lots of Fomoco on these cars. Everything's nice and tight there. Brakes are good. These brakes really last a long time. They don't wear out fast, luckily. Strut looks good. So here we have a bell housing. There's no transmission there, just the bell housing. There's our clutch and everything. There's our bleed port. Another reason why the clutch job is so expensive on this as well, because as we get back to the back, there we will find the transmission. Here's our cats, body, frame, space age type stuff, really cool. Oh, there it is. There's our transmission, all the way in the back. Transaxle, I guess you'd call it. The differential and the transmission are all in one unit there. More shielding. We'll check these brakes. Sway bar link is good. The shock is dry. Nothing loose. Nothing leaking from our transaxle. Brakes look good. Everything's tight. The shock is good. The CV boots are good. I expect them to be good with 14,000 miles on them. We do have a cooler back here that catches the wind. Probably a transmission cooler, I would imagine. Here's our big beefy exhaust, a muffler. And that pretty much is it. Again, we didn't have to do a whole lot to this car other than bring the modules back from the brink. The tires are good. Everything's pretty good on this car. It's really beautiful. Let's get it back on the ground. So there you have it. That was what the inside, the outside, and everything looks like on a 2011 Vantage V12 Carbon Black Edition. Thank heavens it doesn't need a brake job right now. Can you imagine that, guys? 26 grand for a brake job. Now there may be ways to get cheaper options or cheaper items, but if you're trying to keep it stock for resale, to keep the value up, you don't want to cheap out on stuff. If you're truly using this car for what it's meant for, top speed and hard braking, you don't want to skimp out on those parts. You want top-notch OEM quality, and it's going to cost you. So if you're curious what kind of tools we would use to do these jobs, if we were going to do them, check my Amazon affiliates link in the description below. We get a small cut and we really appreciate it. Make sure to hit the subscribe button because we got really cool cruising yacht videos to come. We do have some updates coming on that. And guys, it is just, oh, it's so hot today. Make sure to hit the subscribe.
Oh no, wizard, no, not a hoobie. Oh, he's okay.
Whew.
Poor guy. Let's call this day good.
Start your engines.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's go home.
Let's get out of here.